Today, we're going to talk about a huge shift happening in the corporate world in the Gulf. For the longest time, sustainability was kind of that thing tucked away in the back of an annual report. Well, not anymore. It's moving from a PR talking point right to the center stage and becoming a real driver of profit.
All right, let's just get right to it, because I know what you're probably thinking. This whole sustainability thing, isn't it just a buzzword? Something companies slap on their annual report to look good? For years, terms like ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance, have felt a little empty, right? A bit of corporate PR fluff.
Well, here's the twist. In the Gulf, this isn't about choice anymore. It's not a voluntary feel-good exercise. It is quickly becoming the law of the land.
And that means we're at a strategic tipping point. This is way more than just a few new rules. We're seeing sustainability reporting go from a nice-to-have to an absolute must-have, something that every single C-suite is talking about.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The companies that are getting this right, they aren't just trying to avoid fines. They get that this is about weaving sustainability into the very fabric of their business, how they manage risk, how they create value, and how they plan for what's coming next. Ticking a box is easy. Building a business that lasts, that's the real prize.
So what's causing this massive change? Well, there's a new global rulebook being written, and for the first time, it's creating a single common language for sustainability that everyone, from investors to regulators, can actually understand. Let's dig in.
Okay, so you need to know these four letters. ISSB, the International Sustainability Standards Board. The easiest way to think about them, they're basically creating the global accounting standards, but for sustainability. Their goal is simple, but it's a game changer. Create one single trusted way to report this stuff. That way an investor in London can look at a company in Dubai and compare its climate risk to one in Singapore. Apples to apples.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it shows the two big schools of thought. The ISSB, they're all about something called single materiality. Think of it as an outside-in view. It asks one simple question: how do climate and social issues affect the company's bottom line? It's laser-focused on what investors need to know. Now, on the other hand, you have frameworks like GRI, which used double materiality. They ask that first question, plus a second one. How does the company's work impact the planet and its people? That's the inside-out view. Both are super important, but it's that relentless focus on financial value that's making the ISSB's approach spread like wildfire.
So what does this ISSB framework actually ask for? It really comes down to these four things. 1. Governance. Who's in charge of this at the board level? 2. Strategy. How is this stuff actually baked into your business model? 3. Risk management. How are you finding and dealing with these new kinds of risks? And 4, the big one, metrics and targets. Show us the numbers. What are your goals and how are you tracking your progress?
Okay, that's the global picture. But how is it actually playing out in the Gulf? Well, it's not just theory anymore. We're seeing a race to regulate, as countries across the GCC are turning these international standards into local law.
And this table right here tells the whole story. Just look at the dates: 2026, 2025, 2024. This isn't some far-off future. It is happening right now. You can see Qatar is going all in on those new ISSB standards we just talked about. Bahrain and Kuwait are using the GRI framework for now, that double materiality approach. But here's the thing. No matter the specific framework, the trend is crystal clear. Mandatory reporting is coming, and it's coming for everyone.
And in case you were wondering if these new rules have any teeth, well, think again. In the UAE, if you don't comply with the new climate change law, you could be looking at fines up to 2 million dirhams. Now that is a number that gets a boardroom's attention, and fast.
I really want to call out what Qatar is doing here. By being the first in the Gulf to say, yep, we're adopting the ISSB standards, they're sending a powerful message to investors all over the world. They're saying our markets are transparent, we play by the global rules, and we are open for business. It's a really smart strategic move to pull in more capital.
All right, enough about the rules and regulations. Let's look at how some of the big players in the region are already putting this all into practice and actually using it to get ahead of the competition.
So first up, let's talk about SABIC. As a petrochemical giant, they are right on the front lines of the energy transition. But instead of running from that fact, they are tackling it head-on with massive investments in new tech and, just as importantly, with really clear public targets.
And here's the proof that it's more than just talk. They've already cut their direct emissions by almost 14% since 2018. For a company of this size in this industry, that is a seriously impressive number. It shows their strategy is actually working.
So how are they doing it? This is the cool part. They are literally inventing the future of their industry. We're talking about the world's first big, electrically heated steam cracker to cut emissions, technology that captures CO2 and turns it into useful stuff, and a whole new line of plastics designed for a circular economy. This isn't just compliance, this is industrial innovation at its best.
Now, let's switch gears completely and look at banking. The National Bank of Bahrain is a great case study because it shows these ideas aren't just for heavy industry. For a bank, it's all about baking ESG into your decision-making, from the very top of the organization all the way down.
And look, it's not just about financing wind farms, right? Check out these social metrics. A 94% nationalization rate, 38% women in the workforce. This is what a holistic ESG strategy looks like. It's about your carbon footprint, for sure, but it's also about how you invest in your people and your community.
So, it's pretty clear where things are headed. But let's be honest, getting there is not going to be easy. Let's talk about some of the big challenges that companies in the Gulf are going to have to tackle.
Yeah, these are the big ones. First, Scope 3 emissions. That means trying to measure the carbon footprint of your entire supply chain. It's incredibly complicated. Then there's just getting good, clean, auditable data. That's a massive undertaking. You also have to find people for your board who actually understand climate science. And all the while, you have to balance spending money on these long-term projects with keeping your shareholders happy today. So yeah, none of this is a walk in the park.
Which brings us to the big question, really. When you step back and look at everything, the new laws, the global standards, the huge strategic shifts from companies like SABIC and NBB, you have to wonder, is this just a new complicated layer of paperwork? Or are we actually watching the birth of a fundamentally different kind of economy in the Gulf? One that's being rewired for a very different future. Something to think about.